Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Leora Aileen and I create content on here about reading, writing and other stuff sometimes as well, like my artwork and my obsession with vintage clothing. But today I am here to talk about my recent fave reads. This is going to be sort of like a June-July wrap-up. There's just some reads that I've recently gotten to and that I'm very excited about, very excited to share with you guys, so let's get into it. But right before we get to talking about these wonderful books, a small word from today's sponsor. Hi, today's video is being kindly sponsored by our friends over at bookofthemonth.com. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers, and they are one of my favorites to work with because I just love the fact that you get to receive a book every month with Book of the Month. Their team vets through hundreds of books each month and they look at new releases, debut authors, all sorts of interesting reads. And this way readers can be helped discovering new and emerging authors, new books they love, and you get to do less researching and more reading, which is wonderful. Currently, Book of the Month ships to the US and Canada, so if you live in these countries, you should definitely check out this amazing service. Next to all of that, they also have a wonderful skip policy. You can skip any month, anytime, and you will not be charged, so you're always safe. And they also have the best price for new release hardcover fiction. In fact, you can get your first book for only $9.99 using my code Leora. So definitely check this out using my code Leora. So now I want to show you guys two of the books that I think are really cool this month that I want to highlight and talk to you guys about. The first one is Family Law by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I've talked about her books before on this channel because I've read Poet X and I've absolutely loved it, and this is being called a tender tale of sisterhood with a magical twist. Sounds absolutely amazing. That is something I need in my life. So in this story, a family grapples with life and grief after their sister, who can predict death, decides to host a wake for herself. Oh my god, I love novels where there's like a clairvoyant or a psychic sort of situation, so this sounds completely up my alley and the cover is stunning. The other book I would love to highlight is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. So this is being dubbed a scintillating new psychological thriller. I don't even know what that means, scintillating, but I bet it's good. It's about a woman who finds herself the subject of her own popular true crime podcast. Oh my god, I listen to a few true crime podcasts, so this is super intriguing to me. Anyway, head on over to bookofthemonth.com and use my code Leora to get your first book for only $9.99. I'm so excited about working with Book of the Month again, so thank you so much for supporting me and enabling me to keep creating content on here, and thank you guys as well for watching my little sponsor bits where I still talk about books. Okay, now without any further ado, let's finally get to talking about some books, some other books that are not the Book of the Month books, even though I'm very excited about those too, but let's get into the video. So I tried to do like sort of split dye moment by putting my old extensions underneath my new ones. I don't know if I like it. I mean, is it giving witchy cute vibes? I don't know, maybe. Yes, I said we were going to talk about books and now I'm talking about hair. Sorry, let's go. So recently I've been getting back into manga, but also graphic novels, so that's been wonderful. And one of my favorites that I've recently read is Delicious in Dungeon. I've read volume 1, but I've also started in volume 2. These came recommended to me by my nephew, and he also bought them for me to further inspire me to actually pick them up. We follow a group of adventurers who are journeying through this magical dungeon full of monsters and creatures, but there's also treasure, of course, because they're there for a reason. And one of the group gets eaten by a dragon and they have to try and rescue them, but to do this they have to go very, very deep into the dungeon, and so for the first time ever they have to go away from like the dungeon markets and the places where they can gather food, and they have to forage and hunt for food and eat the monsters and live off of the dungeon. So this is basically the premise of the story. It's an adventure, but it's also very cozy, and they are journeying through there, they are supporting each other, helping each other out, and it's like sort of mixed in between with recipes of the weird dungeon monsters that they are eating, which is so cute. The illustrations are beautiful, and it's like really fun to see, like, you know, cooked ghost spaghetti sauce and stuff like that. It's just cozy in a fantasy whimsical way, and it's very entertaining. I really enjoy the fairy elf characters as well and their elaborate hairstyles, and it just makes me want to be a fairy. Another graphic novel that I picked up was Wash Day Diaries by Jamila Rouser. This was so fun, like one of the most fun contemporary graphic novels I've read in recent years, mostly also because the story and like the art was so stunning. Like I love when they do a good color scheme, and this graphic novel definitely has that down. We follow 4 women, they're all friends, and we basically follow them like in a slice of life kind of story where we see their daily lives, their ups and their downs, and the way they care for each other and their hair. And like, you know, Wash Day Diaries, it's about the washing of hair and like these traditions and how important they are. It's very beautiful, it's heartwarming, it's super cute, lovely contemporary graphic novel that discusses friendship and so many other themes. Loved it. I've actually read a lot of graphic novels, is something I'm realizing now, because another one I picked up was Moonstruck Volume 1, Magic to Brew. Oh my god, this was set in a magical coffee shop. You know I had to pick that up. So cute, give it to me, that's adorable. So there's this centaur and he works in a coffee shop, and it's like, oh, the illustration style of this is like so warm and fuzzy, and it's very well done. The story was a little bit all over the place. Like I've read it, I think 3 weeks ago, and I can barely tell you what it's about, but I think they get invited to this mystery theatre show, and from there on out an adventure starts. It's also queer, I believe. It didn't really stay with me like some of these other stories have, but it was definitely very beautiful. The lighting is really changing because the weather in the Netherlands is not sure like what it wants to be. Does it want to be summer or full time? They don't know, and you know, so if the lighting changes, that is why. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is The Storied Life of A.J. by Gabrielle Zevin. After I had read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, I knew I had to read some more Gabrielle Zevin, and this was one of my favorite books that I've read this whole year, I think, together with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It was just so heartwarming, so cute, so funny, and it was like sad, like heartbreaking and heartwarming, like beautiful but sad at the same time, like the bittersweet vibes, and that's my favorite type of book. We follow this really sour 40-year-old man. His wife has died, he's really struggling. He has this really small, cozy bookstore on an island, I believe, and he's kind of closed off from everybody. He doesn't want to get intermingled with anybody, he doesn't want to socialize. He's like, I'm fine, leave me alone. One day this publishing house rep comes by and he's like, I don't want nothing to do with you, get out of my face, I don't want to buy new books, just leave me alone. And he sent her on a merry way, and then a few days later a child gets dropped off at the bookstore, and that is where our story starts. Absolutely beautiful, so fun. It had this sort of whimsical inventiveness, but also this sort of childish wonder. That was something that I really felt in this book, and it was just beautiful. Another read I read, and I literally stayed up to finish this book because it was making such an impression on me. I was really enjoying it, and that is The Vanishing Half by Brett Bennett. In this story, we follow 2 twin sisters, and they grow up very close together. They are best friends, they do lots of things together, but they are very different. And then at one point, their mother decides to pull them out of school so they can help with paying, they can start working. But one of the sisters really wants to stay in school to learn, and the other sister also really wants to escape this small southern black community that they are growing up in together. And eventually, these 2 sisters drift apart, and one starts living her life as a white woman, they are mixed race, and the other one starts living her life as a black woman. They both end up having children as well, and so their lives really split apart. They also just end up living completely different lives, and we read this novel as multiple generations of this family and of this story sort of go through things, live life, and then eventually the 2 sisters and their offspring reconnect again in a really strange way. It's about community, it's about racial identity. I thought it was absolutely beautiful, such a captivating story, so many beautiful settings, so well done. Every character felt so real. There was so much love in between these pages as well, and it was just beautiful. I love a good book about a sisterly bond. Then another 5-star read that I cannot stop gushing about is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I've talked about this before on the channel. It was a book that came highly recommended to me by all of you guys who really wanted me to read it, like really badly wanted me to read this, and I completely understand because it was so cute and so cozy and so heartwarming, and I just absolutely loved it. So we follow Mika Moon, who's a YouTuber. She talks about witchy things online, but the catch is she's actually a witch, even though online she's just pretending to have like the vibes, you know, like me basically. I'm not a witch though, I'm not a witch. It's just I like the vibes. My best friend Q, who you might know from Book Talk on Instagram, she described this as an Emily Henry book, but with magic, and it's just exactly that. And when she said that, I was like, okay, well, I know now that I'm gonna love this and it's gonna be a favorite. And as soon as I started it, I knew she was right. It really reminded me of some TJ Klune stories as well. It's got that like sort of saving the children in a really cute and cozy way, forming a found family vibe that I really thoroughly enjoy. So Mika gets a really weird request in her inbox to sort of raise and tutor these children, these young witches that are living together in this magical house, Nowhere House. And she's like, that sounds fake, but okay, I'll check it out. She goes to Nowhere House and she indeed finds this a really weird, strange, magical family all mixed together. And there she meets Jamie as well, who's I believe like the groundskeeper, or I don't know, he's in some way involved in this strange family, but he's a single man. And yeah, of course there's romance, there's so many things in this book, but it's just cozy and heartwarming. It's perfect for the fall time. But I mean, you can pick it up now as well if your rainy summer days are also being rainy summer days like over here, except right now apparently. And then of course I read some more witchy reads, because what else would I be doing? I read Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega. This was adorable. It was like Nevermore, but then just a little bit more witchy. All the characters were so cute and whimsical and fun, and I had a really good time reading this. I listened to the audiobook, which was also a lot of fun. One of the things I enjoy most about reading middle grade is that so many of the characters and places in the story have like such weird, whimsical names that I sometimes feel in adult fiction we feel like we cannot do that because it's too like whimsical and silly, and I love when a book just, you know, is that silly. One of the characters who's a baby in this book is called Beefy, and I love that. We follow Seven Salazar, and she's a young witch living in the magical town of Ravenskill, and every year young witchlings participate in the Black Moon ceremony to get chosen to be in a coven. Seven and her best friend have got it all worked out. They know which coven they want to belong to. They are super excited for the Black Moon ceremony, but when the night comes, it turns out that Seven is a spare, which is like a spare witch, and she and her fellow spares don't really feel like they can form a coven. They don't feel prepared, and then they invoke their only option to become a full-fledged coven, and that is the impossible task. Now, as it's in the name, the impossible task is quite impossible, and Seven and her fellow spare witches have to go on this amazing adventure to try and become a fully fledged witch and also form a coven. It's action-packed, it's got its cozy moments, it's very cute, it's a little bit silly but in a good way, and I really enjoyed this read. Another book I've recently read is The House of Months and Years by Emma Trevane, and this cover just really got to me. Look at it, it is stunning. I thought it was beautiful. It reminded me of Howl's Moving Castle, the cover, which is why I picked it up, to be honest. And I feel like maybe the author was inspired by it in some way because the main character is called Amelia Howling, so that might just be like a coincidence, I don't know. Anyway, Amelia is moving to a new house, a magical, strange house, because her nephew's parents have died, and her parents are now with her moving to their weird house to take care of her nephews. So they're reforming the family as well, so for a young kid like Amelia, this is a really big change and she's really struggling. I believe she's like 12 years old or something. But it's this gigantic, like old, whimsical, strange house with like weird doorways and weird little rooms. There's mysterious things going on, like the cellar is always extremely cold, but upstairs is extremely warm. People seem to be forgetting things in this house. There's something weird going on, and Amelia thinks it's probably being haunted. There's ghosts. But then she finds out that actually the house can time travel, and it's a sort of time travel magical situation. Oh my god, I loved the premise of this story, loved the vibes, especially in the first bit of the book. I was like, oh my god, this is going to be a 5-star. It did not end up being a 5-star because towards the end it felt like the plot was just unraveling in a weird way. I didn't expect it to go this way, but I still really enjoyed this book. I think it's like if Howl's Moving Castle and Coraline had a baby together, that would be this book. It's just like very creepy in a weird way, but like very atmospheric and cozy at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, the best explanation I have is Coraline and Howl's Moving Castle having a baby. That is this book, but then also time travel. I really want to read more Emma Trevane fiction now because she does a lot of ghosts and like themes I enjoy, and all the covers are stunning as well. So I'm very excited about discovering this author. And then the final book that I've recently read that is a new favorite is Cursed Objects, Strange but True Stories of the World's Most Infamous Items by J.W. Ocker. Now, we all know I love a weird non-fiction book about like occult, magical, horrible, like slightly awful things. Like I read one about books bound in human skin. I've read some about serial killers, and now apparently we're up to Cursed Objects. I have also read a non-fiction about the morgue. So I guess I read a lot of creepy nonfiction. But I especially love nonfiction when they're also like sort of funny, and this book definitely does that. It's full of infamous, bizarre, creepy stories about these objects that are apparently cursed, and the weird things and situations and horrible events they have created with this cursed object. There's cursed chairs in there, cursed email chains, cursed dolls, cursed books, all sorts of things. I really loved how well put together this book is. There's like cursed objects from different times, and there's digital ones as well as physical ones, and it's not just antique dolls, and I really love that. It's very humorous as well. It's sort of like is a silly book. The book itself is cursed, by the way, as well. The author has cursed it, so I mean, beware before reading this. Another fun thing is that the author of this book actually bought another cursed object to put in his home to look at whilst writing to see if anything would happen, which I think is hilarious. I mean, also I would be too scared to do that, but kudos to the author. It appears the full compendium is illustrated as well, but I listened to the audiobook, so I didn't have a chance to look at the art, but it's probably stunning because the cover is such a vibe. So I really enjoyed this book. I believe I gave it 4 stars and it was amazing, and I really want to read more of these like funny, creepy nonfiction things, so if anybody has any recommendations, let me know. So those were my favorite recent reads the past 2 months. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below, have you read anything particularly good in these last few months? And if you don't know what to comment, leave a nice mushroom emoji. Have you guys seen my mushroom candle? It's my pride and joy. Don't forget to check out this week's sponsor, Book of the Month, as well. I've worked with them for many years and I love their service. And then without any further ado, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye!